This week's story, guys, is realistic fiction, which means it is a story with events that could happen in real life. So as we read the story, you're going to see that the events in the story are realistic. It's something that we feel like could actually happen in real life. Our major goal for the week, though, is to be able to identify those story elements. We've talked about story elements before. Okay, so all fictional type stories, whether they be realistic fiction or just regular fiction, stories all have the same elements. They all have characters, a setting, a problem and a solution, and all fiction stories have a plot, which is a clear sequence of events. So this week's story, as you read, be thinking today about, well, what are the elements in this story? Who are the characters? Where is the story taking place? Those types of things. And we're going to be reviewing those together later on in the week. But for today, I mainly just want you to listen to the story, enjoy the story, but at the same time be thinking about those elements. The title of the story is The Science Fair. The story is written by Suzanne Wojciechowski. I know that's an interesting name, but I pronounced it the best I could. It's illustrated by Susanna Natai. Miss Babbitt's third grade class is having a science fair. Beanie is a girl in that class who doesn't like science. Her partner, Kevin Gates, is good at science. He came up with 2 experiments to show that heat makes liquids and gases expand or get bigger. Beanie is proud of herself for figuring out how to show that solids also expand when they are heated. But Beanie is worried that their experiment will not get a good grade. Some of the other students are making glittery posters. Others are going to play music. Kevin insists that all they need is good science. How can they compete without fancy props? So this page right here, guys, is really just kind of some background information. Okay, this is an outside narrator who's kind of setting up the story for us and helping us understand what's going on as we start getting into the story. On the day of the science fair, I woke up early. Before the alarm went off, I lay in bed hugging Jingle Bell and worrying. What if our project is the worst one there? I said to Jingle Bell. What if I mess up when I do my part for the judges? What if the judges laugh when they walk away from our table? What if Miss Babbitt told us that she liked our project just to be nice? Miss Babbitt would do something like that. Once I heard my dad tell my mom that Miss Babbitt does a good job of building self-esteem. When I asked him what that meant, he said she works hard to make us kids feel good about herself. Jingle Bell understood that there was a lot to worry about. So on this page, it's no longer the outside narrator telling the story. We see that now the main character, named Beanie, is actually telling the story. And as we see in the opening scene, she's very worried about her science project. On the bus that morning, I saw that Carol Ann and Stacy were dressed alike. Carol Ann and Stacy didn't seem worried. They were talking nonstop about how much fun the science fair was going to be. We're handing out rock candy to everyone who comes to see our project, Carol Ann said. I bet we win first prize. Well, maybe second, said Stacy. The volcano project sounds really good. Nathaniel and Montreal's project was about how volcanoes erupt. They were going to build a volcano out of paper mache and put something inside that would make it all bubbly, like a volcano erupting. Stacy said, your project is good too, but I knew she was just doing self-esteem on me. After lunch, we went to the gym. There were 3 rows of tables with 4 tables in each row set up at the end of the gym. You have half an hour to set up your projects, Miss Babbitt said. And have fun, she added. I felt like throwing up. Kevin and I covered our table with a white tablecloth that my mom let us use. It had a big gravy stain in the middle, but she said we could set something on top of the stain so it wouldn't show. We laid out our stuff in a sign. I taped my posters to the front of the table. When we finished setting up, I walked around the gym to see what other teams were doing. When I saw the volcano, I ran back to our table. Kevin, you should see the volcano. It's huge. Why didn't we think of a volcano?" Before Kevin could say anything, I ran off to look at other projects, then went back to report to Kevin. "Carol Ann and Stacy have streamers all around the edges of their table. Why didn't we think of that? Should I call my Aunt Mom to ask if she'll run out and buy us some streamers? She'd do it. I know she would." "We don't need streamers," said Kevin. I left our table again, then went back with more news. Manuel and Boomer are doing a planet project, and they have a black tablecloth with stars all over it. Why didn't we use a cool tablecloth instead of a dumb white one with a gravy stain on it? "You need to chill," said Kevin. "Forget about what other people are doing, and just—" Before Kevin could finish, I ran off again. In a minute I was back. "Linda and Elaine have bubbles for their project. Big ones," I said out of breath. "Everyone loves bubbles. Why didn't we do bubbles?" "Beanie," he said, "could you go get some paper towels in case the red water comes up to the top of the straw and runs over?" Then I noticed the crowd of kids around the table next to ours. I peeked over. It was Shalita and Jessica's project. They had a bunch of big balloons on their table and a plate sprinkled with black pepper. "Oh no," I said to Kevin. "Look at all those balloons. Balloons are better than bubbles. How can we only have one itsy bitsy one in our project?" Shalita rubbed a balloon on her arm and then held the balloon a few inches from the plate of pepper. The pepper jumped right off the plate onto the balloon. "That happens because of static electricity," Shalita explained. Everyone said, "Wow." One kid even said, "That's a winner." My stomach started to hurt. I told Kevin I had to go to Mrs. Falasini's office to lie down. Fasinelli's office, just to lie down. Mrs. Fasinelli is the school nurse. She has a Ranger Rick magazine that we can look at while we try to feel better. "If I'm not back by the time it's our turn, you go ahead without me," I said. I almost got away, but Kevin grabbed my arm. "Paper towels," he said. Parents started to come into the gym and walk around from table to table. Teachers from our school brought their classes to see the projects too. When I saw my mom and dad, I waved to them, and they came to wish us luck. Kevin said his mom was going to try to get off work early and come, but even though he kept looking toward the door and looking all around the gym, I don't think he saw her. Then the judges showed up and went from table to table. I started to bite my nails. When they got to the balloon table, I knew we were next. My knees got wobbly. As the judges walked to our table, Kevin took one last look toward the gym door. He started waving. "She made it," he said. I looked toward the door and saw a woman coming into the gym. She looked out of breath, like she'd been running. Mr. Shanner said, Hi, Beanie and Kevin. What do we have here?" "We have a project to show that heat makes things expand or get bigger," Kevin said. Then he poked me with his elbow, and I said, "We will show you how heat makes gases expand." Then Kevin did the experiment with the balloon and the bottles and explained everything he was doing as he went along. "Next," I said, "we will now show how heat makes liquid expand." Kevin did the bottle and straw experiment and explained it. We did not need paper towels. The red water didn't come up too high, just high enough. Then it was Kevin's turn to talk. He said, "We will now show how heat makes solids expand." This time I did the experiment, the one with the nail in the eye. When we were finished, Mr. Shannon said, The judges wrote on clipboards and asked us a few questions. They shook our hands and moved on to the next table. "Why weren't they smiling when they shook our hands?" I asked Kevin. "Why didn't they say, 'Wow,' when the water came up the straw? Why did Mr. Shannon say, 'What were they writing on their clipboards?'" Kevin sat down and smiled. "We did a good job," he said. While we were waiting for the judges to make their decisions, I went over to Carol Ann and Stacy's table and asked how their presentation went. "Well," said Carol Ann, "I think the judges liked our outfits and necklaces, but they told us to turn off the music so they could hear us better. Plus, we were supposed to start growing the crystals a few days ago, only we forgot to read the instructions on the box. We didn't do it till this morning, so the crystals are kind of small." I looked at the fishbowl of water on the table. It had a string through the water, and the crystals were supposed to be growing on the string, but all I could see was a little bit of pink grainy stuff on one part of the string. And Stacy added, "Boomer's mom broke a tooth eating our candy." "How did yours go?" Carol Ann asked me. "Okay, I guess." The judges came back into the gym. We all went back to our tables. I crossed my fingers. Miss Kolaski said, "We were very impressed with the efforts of all students. We hope they are as proud of themselves as we are of them." Then Mr. Shanner said, "It was hard for us to choose the 3 best, but after much deliberation, we have chosen for a 3rd place the static electricity experiment. It was creative and educational." Shalita and Jessica screamed. My only hope had been 3rd place. I sighed. I uncrossed my fingers and clapped as they went to get their certificate and 3rd place ribbon. Now Miss Kowalski gave the 2nd place award. It went to the volcano project. Nathaniel and Montreal's volcano was impressive, she said, but it was their charts and their explanation of what causes a volcano to erupt that we especially liked. Those were thorough and easy to understand. After the clapping, Mr. Shanner coughed. Then he said, "Now for the 1st place project. We felt the winner's project was a fine example of real science. It was organized, clear, and complete. I knew we wouldn't get 1st place. I started reciting the 7's times tables in my head just to keep myself from crying. But right after 7 times 4, Kevin started pushing me out from behind the table. 'Go,' he said. 'We won!'" "We what?" "We won!" I screamed and jumped up and down. I couldn't believe it. Kevin and I each got a certificate and a blue ribbon that had 1st place science fair stamped on it in golden letters. Miss Babbitt hugged us. Then she whispered in my ear, "I knew you could make it work." My mom and dad came up and hugged us. So did Kevin's mom. "Thanks for coming," I heard Kevin say to her. "I wouldn't have missed it for anything. I'm just sorry I'm late," she said. Then his mom pulled a camera out of her purse. "Say cheeseburger," she told Kevin and me. "Aw, Mom, come on," Kevin said. But he smiled. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed our story. I want you to get out your reading journals. Just like last week, I just want you to think about the things we read in the story. Did you enjoy the story? Were there parts you really liked? Or maybe you didn't really find this story very interesting at all, and there was a lot of the story that you did not like. Either way, I want you to write down your thoughts about your story. What did you like about this week's story, or what did you not like? I want you guys to work on that in your journals while your teacher completes reading groups.